worthy of you, but I just can't help loving you. It's like wanting to touch a star.
The show you loved, the family you welcomed into your home every Friday night, was a lie. Not a malicious lie, but a beautiful accident that spiraled out of control. Family Matters was never supposed to be about a nerdy neighbor with huge glasses and a catchphrase. It was meant to be the story of a strong mother and her family, but a single guest star changed everything, sparking years of secret turmoil that most fans never figured out. The show that never was.
Want to do the Steve Urkel dance? All you have to do is hitch up your pants, bend your knees and stick out your pelvis. I'm telling you, baby, it's better than Elvis.
Before Steve Urkel ever hiked up his pants and snorted his way into our hearts, there was a different plan, a much simpler one. To understand the drama that unfolded behind the scenes, you first have to understand the show that was supposed to be. Family Matters didn't just appear out of thin air. It was born from another hit 90s sitcom, Perfect Strangers. On that show, a sharp-witted elevator operator named Harriet Winslow, played by the talented Jo Marie Payton, became a fan favorite. Audiences loved her quick humor and no-nonsense attitude so much that producers William Bickley and Michael Warren decided she deserved her own series. Jo Marie Payton was a seasoned performer long before she stepped into Harriet's shoes. Born in Georgia and raised in Florida, she graduated from Albany State University and moved to California to pursue her acting dream. She joined the national touring company of the musical Pearly and worked steadily in television through the late 70s and 80s, with recurring roles on shows like The Red Fox Comedy Hour and Silver Spoons. Her big break came in 1987 when she was cast in Perfect Strangers. Her character was so popular that ABC saw the potential for a spin-off centered on her. This new show was meant to be a star vehicle for Payton. It was designed as a down-to-earth comedy about a working-class black family in Chicago. The focus was on Harriet and her husband Carl, a Chicago police officer played by Reginald VelJohnson. VelJohnson was already a familiar face to audiences, known for playing cops. Born in Queens, New York, he studied theater at NYU and worked with acclaimed actors like Morgan Freeman. He had memorable roles as a corrections officer in Ghostbusters and a limo driver in Crocodile Dundee. But his career exploded in 1988 when he played the kind-hearted Sergeant Al Powell in the action classic Die Hard. A producer for Family Matters saw an early screening of the film and knew he had found the perfect Carl Winslow. Rounding out the family were their 3 children, the cool, sometimes troublemaking oldest son Eddie, played by Darius McCrary, the smart, popular middle child Laura, played by Kelly Shania Williams, and the sweet youngest daughter, Judy. The home was full, with Carl's streetwise mother Estelle, and Harriet's widowed sister Rachel, and her baby Richie, also living under the same roof. The young actors brought their own unique experiences to the set. Darius McCrary began his career as a child actor, making his film debut in the 1987 comedy Big Shots and appearing in the acclaimed 1988 drama Mississippi Burning before landing the role of Eddie. Kelly Shania Williams, a Washington, D.C. native, was a shy child whose parents enrolled her in theater classes to help her open up. The training paid off, and at just 13 years old, she was cast as Laura. The show was intended to be a grounded look at a multi-generational family navigating everyday life, with Harriet as the powerhouse matriarch at its center. This was the show the cast signed up for. It was the series that was promised to Jo Marie Payton, a chance to lead her own sitcom and become a household name on her own terms. The entire foundation was built around her character, but in the 12th episode of the very first season, a knock on the door from a nerdy neighbor, intended to be a one-time joke, would not just change the show, it would hijack it completely, turning the original star into a supporting character in her own story and planting the seeds for years of resentment that would eventually tear the family apart. The one-man tsunami named Urkel.
Hi, everybody.
I could have sworn I locked that door.
You did. I took the liberty of making my own key.
The character that would derail the original plan for Family Matters was never meant to be a star. He was supposed to be a forgettable, one-episode guest. The episode was called Laura's First Date, and the script called for a nerdy boy to be the world's worst blind date for Laura Winslow. A 12-year-old actor named Jaleel White came in to audition for the part. White was already a veteran child actor. He started doing commercials at age 3 for major brands like Jell-O, Pepsi, and Toys R Us. His preschool teacher had told his mother he was special and should be in Hollywood. He landed guest spots on shows like The Jeffersons and was even cast in a CBS sitcom called Charlie and Company alongside Flip Wilson and Gladys Knight, which was meant to be a rival to The Cosby Show. He knew he had to do something special to stand out for the Family Matters role. He didn't just read the lines, he became the character before he even entered the room. For his audition, White borrowed a pair of oversized work glasses from his father, who was a dentist. He hiked his pants up high, put on some too small jeans his mom had, and created the iconic nasally voice and clumsy walk on the spot. He was so committed that when he walked into the audition room, he didn't introduce himself as Jaleel. He was already Steve Urkel. The producers were stunned. His performance was so funny and unique that he got the part instantly. When they filmed the episode, the live studio audience had a reaction no one expected. Every time Jaleel White came on screen as Urkel, the crowd erupted in laughter and applause. They were literally cheering his name. The producers knew they had stumbled upon television gold. The reaction was so massive that they immediately made him a regular cast member and scrambled to rewrite scripts to include him. They even went back to episodes they had already finished filming and added new opening scenes, showing the Winslow family trying to hold their front door shut, while Urkel desperately tried to push his way in. Overnight, the show's modest ratings skyrocketed. Family Matters went from being a quiet family sitcom to a ratings giant and the anchor of ABC's legendary TGIF Friday night lineup. The nerdy side character, who was only supposed to appear once, had become the show's biggest star. But this success came at a cost. Urkel's arrival was a life raft that saved the show from likely cancellation, but it was a life raft that steered the entire production into a completely different and much stormier ocean. The show slowly stopped being about the family. It became the Steve Urkel Show. His genius-level intelligence allowed the writers to introduce increasingly bizarre plot lines. Soon, he wasn't just a clumsy neighbor. He was a full-blown inventor creating sci-fi gadgets. He built a jetpack, a time machine, and even a transformation chamber that could change his DNA. This chamber led to the creation of his suave, handsome alter ego, Stefan Urquell. The character of Stefan was created partly because performing Urkel's high-pitched voice was starting to cause physical damage to White's throat, and playing Stefan allowed him to speak normally and recover. He also played other Urkel family members, like his female cousin, Myrtle Urkel. The show was no longer about Family Matters. It was about what crazy thing Urkel would invent this week. This shift may have brought in viewers, but it pushed the original family to the sidelines, turning them into props for Urkel's antics and creating a deep-seated tension that would soon claim its first victim. The first casualty of the Urkel show.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Michelle.
Why do you talk like a Mickey Mouse?
That's because I'm from Chicago.
For 4 seasons, the Winslow family had 3 children, Eddie, Laura, and the youngest daughter, Judy, played by Jamie Foxworth. She was a sweet, normal kid who struggled with school and looked up to her big sister. Then, at the start of season 5, she was gone. She went upstairs to her room one day and was never seen or even mentioned ever again. For years, fans were left wondering what happened to Judy Winslow. It became one of television's biggest mysteries. The truth was cold and simple. After season 4, 13-year-old Jamie Foxworth was fired. The show's focus had shifted so completely to Steve Urkel that the producers felt her character was no longer necessary. They claimed it was due to budget cuts and that Judy wasn't adding to the new Urkel-centric storylines. But the way it was handled revealed a shockingly callous side to the production. Jo Marie Payton was furious about the decision. When she asked the producers why they were getting rid of Judy, she was given a chilling answer. They told her nobody would notice. Payton was personally hurt by this. She felt they had taken her baby away. She argued with the producers, telling them that when fans saw her on the street, they wouldn't be asking the producers what happened. They would be asking her where her daughter went. But her pleas fell on deaf ears. Judy was erased from the family history. For Jamie Foxworth, being fired so publicly was a devastating blow. It damaged her self-esteem and made her feel like she wasn't a good actress. After leaving the show, she tried to form an R&B group with her sisters called SHE, which released an album on Shaquille O'Neal's record label, but it didn't find success. Facing financial difficulties and struggling with depression, Foxworth entered the adult film industry in her early 20s under the name Crave. She later said this decision was made during a dark time of low self-esteem and substance abuse. She eventually found her way to recovery, appearing on shows like Celebrity Rehab and The Oprah Winfrey Show to share her story. The birth of her son in 2009 inspired her to focus on healing and sobriety. Judy's disappearance was more than just a strange piece of TV trivia. It was the first clear sign that the family in Family Matters was now disposable. The wholesome, loving family presented on screen was a stark contrast to the ruthless business decisions being made behind it. The show's title promised that family mattered, but the producers proved that in the face of the Urkel phenomenon, the ratings mattered more. This act of erasing a child from the family unit shattered the show's core principle and revealed the deep internal crisis that was brewing just beneath the surface of the happy sitcom living room. When family didn't matter.
Hey! Look at you people! Look at my kitchen! Have you all lost your minds?
As Steve Urkel's popularity exploded, the atmosphere on set grew increasingly tense. The original cast, who had signed on for a family show, now found themselves in the background of a one-man spectacle. In a 2021 interview, Jaleel White admitted that he was not very well welcomed to the cast at all. He felt the adult actors resented him for taking their shine and changing the dynamic of the show they thought was theirs. Jo Marie Payton later confirmed this, saying, "We weren't happy about it. I think along the way, it got to be a little resentful." The on-screen friction between the grumpy Carl Winslow and the annoying Steve Urkel often mirrored a real-life challenge. Reginald VelJohnson, who played Carl, has described working with a young Jaleel as a challenge, admitting he could be a little difficult at times. He explained that it was tough dealing with a child who grew up on set and became a massive celebrity overnight. In later years, however, VelJohnson has softened, acknowledging the immense pressure White was under as a kid. He said, "He had a lot to deal with. We love him." But the tension wasn't always contained. For Jo Marie Payton, it reached a breaking point during the show's 9th and final season. They were filming an episode called Original Gangsta Dog, where White played Urkel's tough guy gangster cousin from Detroit, OGD. According to Payton, White wanted to do something in a scene that she knew would violate the network's rules on standards and practices. When she stood her ground and said no, she claims he lost his temper. She said he got so mad he started kicking and screaming and stuff. The situation escalated to a shocking level. Payton alleged that White said she must want to melee, which means to fight. Payton, who calls herself a fighter, was ready to go. She said her co-star Darius McCrary, who played Eddie, had to physically grab her and hold her back to prevent a fight. Looking back, Payton believes that some of the adults on set were to blame for enabling White's behavior, letting him run wild because he was the star. This wasn't the only battle the cast had to fight. In another shocking incident, a script contained a deeply offensive and racist joke. Peyton revealed that the script called for Urkel to make a joke about a dark-skinned guest character named Uncle Cornelius, saying, "Hey, Uncle Cornelius, how's the baboon heart? Don't let me catch you swinging from the chandelier." To make matters worse, Peyton overheard a producer suggest they should also give the actor a banana to hold. She was horrified and immediately went to Reginald VelJohnson, telling him, "You need to go straighten this out because I'm about to tear the ceiling off the place." Together, they successfully fought to have the joke removed. These conflicts weren't just about egos or fame. They revealed a deeper issue. The show about a black family was created and run by white producers who aimed for a universal feel that would appeal to mainstream white audiences. This sometimes led to a major cultural disconnect. The racist joke incident is a clear example. A joke that relied on harmful stereotypes was written and approved by some in production, and it was up to the black actors to act as the guardians of their own representation. This added another layer of stress to an already tense environment, forcing the cast to fight battles behind the scenes that the audience never knew about. The Fresh Prince connection.
There's another first I think we should do together.
Really? What?
Well, I love you, Ashley, and I think we should make love.
By the mid-1990s, Steve Urkel wasn't just a character on a sitcom, he was a global pop culture phenomenon. He had his own cereal, Urkelos, and his own doll. His fame was so huge that it bled into other shows, leading to a crossover with the only other black sitcom that could rival its popularity, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But what most fans don't realize is that when Jaleel White appeared on Will Smith's show, it wasn't as Steve Urkel. In a 1995 episode of Fresh Prince titled Not With My Cousin You Don't, Jaleel White guest-starred as a completely different character named Derek. Derek was the new boyfriend of Ashley Banks, and the episode's plot revolved around Ashley wanting to have her first intimate experience with him. Her protective older cousins, Will and Carlton, found out about her plan and spent the entire episode trying to stop them, putting Jaleel White's character in direct conflict with Will Smith. This crossover highlighted the interesting similarities fans had noticed between the two shows. Both featured a short-tempered but lovable patriarch, Carl Winslow, and Uncle Phil. Both had a nerdy outcast character who loved to dance, Steve Urkel and Carlton Banks. And both had a charismatic, cool ladies' man, Eddie Winslow and Will Smith. Both shows even famously replaced the mother figure with a different actress partway through their runs. But the crossover revealed a much deeper story. It was a fascinating intersection of two very different paths to black stardom in the 90s. Will Smith's show was a vehicle to launch himself. He played a fictionalized version of his own persona, and the show was designed to make him a movie star. The brand was Will Smith. For Jaleel White, the brand was Steve Urkel. His fame was entirely tied to the character, and he was often just called the Urkel Kid. His guest role on Fresh Prince as a normal, non-nerdy boyfriend can be seen as an attempt to break free from that typecasting and show the world he could be a serious actor. Behind the scenes, the two young stars had a budding friendship and professional respect. White later revealed in his memoir that he pitched a show concept to Smith, who had just signed a production deal with Universal. White was excited about the possibility of working with him, but outside influences and miscommunication got in the way. Smith's head of TV production left the company, and White's agent told him there was no deal to be made. White admitted he didn't have the nerve to call the rapidly ascending movie star directly to figure out what happened. While Will Smith was using his show to become himself, Jaleel White was on that very same set, trying to prove he was more than just a character, a battle he would continue to fight for decades. The final goodbyes.
What are you doing here?
I come here 3 or 4 times a week.
Oh, felt like a second home.
Oh no, Carl, that would be your place.
As Family Matters entered its 9th and final season, the cracks in the foundation were too big to ignore. The show had moved from ABC to CBS, and the magic was fading. It was then that the family lost its matriarch for good. In the middle of the season, Jo Marie Payton finally left the show. She had been wanting to leave for 2 years. After playing Harriet for nearly 11 years, including her time on Perfect Strangers, she felt creatively exhausted. She famously explained it by saying that when you're a baker, you don't always want to bake cakes. Sometimes you want to bake pies and bread. She was also going through a difficult divorce and was generally unhappy with the direction the show had taken. She had been locked into her contract, but when the show moved to CBS, she agreed to stay for half the season to help with the transition. When her time was up, she exercised an option in her contract and walked away. Instead of writing her character off, the producers made another strange decision. They recast the role. For the last few episodes of the series, Harriet Winslow was played by actress Judy Ann Elder. For the remaining cast, the change was jarring and painful. It was the final sign that the show they once knew was truly over. Reginald VelJohnson said it was incredibly hard. He described it as feeling like getting a divorce and then marrying somebody else. Darius McCrary was even more blunt, saying, "I felt like my mom was gone." He admitted that the many problems behind the scenes had already made him check out emotionally. The warm, familiar face at the heart of the Winslow home was gone, replaced by a stranger, just as the lights were about to go out for good. Life after the Winslows.
20 years I've given you all my love and trust, and this is how you repay me with this cheap floozy?
When the final curtain fell in 1998, the cast members went their separate ways, each navigating the complex world of Hollywood after being part of a cultural phenomenon. Jo Marie Payton continued to have a vibrant career. She appeared in numerous TV shows like Moesha, Will and Grace, and Desperate Housewives. However, her most iconic post-Family Matters role was as the voice of the feisty and hilarious Sugar Mama Proud on the Disney Channel's animated series The Proud Family, a role she reprised for the Disney Plus revival, earning an NAACP Image Award nomination. Reginald VelJohnson, forever beloved as Carl Winslow, continued to work steadily, often in roles that took advantage of his famous police officer persona. He made guest appearances on dozens of shows, including CSI, Monk, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and had recurring roles on Mike and Molly and Heart of Dixie. He even voiced a character named Principal Winslow in the animated series Invincible, a nod to his iconic role. For Jaleel White, life after Urkel was a challenge. He was so defined by the character that he struggled with typecasting. Shortly after the show ended, he starred in his own UPN sitcom called Grown Ups, where he played a young man navigating adulthood, but the show only lasted 1 season. He found success in voice acting, most notably as the first American voice of the video game character Sonic the Hedgehog in several animated series. Over the years, he has appeared in films like Dreamgirls and guest starred on shows like Boston Legal, House, and Psych. Eventually, he came to terms with his iconic role and has since embraced the Urkel legacy, even launching a cannabis line featuring a strain called Purple Urkel. Darius McCrary also remained active in the industry. He took on roles in films like Kingdom Come and provided the voice for the Autobot Jazz in the 2007 live-action Transformers movie. He made a significant move to daytime television, taking over the role of Malcolm Winters on the soap opera The Young and the Restless from 2009 to 2011. Kelly Shaneen Williams appeared in shows like Moesha, Girlfriends, and What About Joan after Family Matters wrapped. However, she eventually chose to step back from the spotlight to focus on her family. She married Hannibal Jackson in 2009 and has 2 children. Williams has dedicated much of her time to charity, founding the Kelly Williams Program in her native Washington, D.C., to give underprivileged youth opportunities in the arts. In recent years, she has returned to acting, sometimes reuniting with her former TV family members. Thelma Hopkins, who played Aunt Rachel, was a star long before Family Matters. She began her career as a background singer for Motown legends and was part of the popular 70s group Tony Orlando and Dawn. After leaving Family Matters, she continued her successful acting career, starring in the sitcom Half and Half from 2002 to 2006, and appearing in shows like ER, Psych, and Dead to Me. Behind the laughter, the catchphrases, and the family hugs, the true story of Family Matters was a complex tale of an accidental star whose fame reshaped everything. It was a story of deep resentments, personal costs, and battles fought for respect that the cameras never captured. The wholesome family on screen hid a fractured one behind the scenes, a secret that, until now, most fans had never figured out.